Hello and welcome to the Back Garden Garage. Now, in the last episode, I did a lot of repair to the lower right rear arch of the BMW. Made a new panel and got it welded in. Now, I did have a lot of trouble with the welding, and for my mind's sake, I am going to blame it on the primer. This is the zinc type primer. And when I did test pieces with and without the primer, it was noticeably worse with that. So what I am going to do is switch over to a copper-based primer just to see if that will, well, help with my welding. So what's for this video? In this one, I am going to get the back panel of the car fitted and done, ready to get the car onto a rotisserie. I've said that a lot through the videos, but this time hopefully I'm going to mean it. So around the tow and eye, it is recessed back on this inner panel, which is new. And when the back panel goes on it, it's going to leave a gap for all of the dirt and debris to get in. So what I need to do is make a little panel which will not only attach to the inner one, but will follow the lines of the back panel when it's fitted. Okay, so that's my little template made up. Now I'm not going to make it out of metal yet. I've just thought it'd be a bit easier to make it with the access there. But what I'm going to do is get this back panel on, and then as long as it's measured up the same, I can make it out of metal at that time. So I'm going to put that aside somewhere safe. Right, okay, so this back panel. Now, I did in one of the older videos take apart the back panel. It's spot welded together and it was just piss poor, basically, the way that it's made. So there's going to be a bit of modification needed to get it to fit nicely. In hindsight, I probably should have just cut off sections of the panel and refitted it to left the old panel on there and just put in patches, but I didn't. So here we are. So I got to clean off the old weld through primer on there and switch it over to the copper. And the same with the boot floor. Get that all cleaned up and get some copper primer on there. So just to explain where I'm at now, as you can see, the back panel is bolted onto the car, and I've been trimming around the edges just to get the panel to fit in the right place. Now I've got it pretty close now, so I'm almost there to start tacking and welding. Now the back panel is an aftermarket panel and it doesn't fit great. It's close, but it's not perfect. So there are a few discrepancies that I'm going to need to fix. So what I'm going to do to start with, once I've prepped it all, is just weld some spot welds in the seams, get them all level, but only the bottom halves. I'm not going to do any spot welding. I'm just going to leave it with the bolts in to hold it in position. Then I'm going to look up around the lights, fit the lights in place to make sure that everything lines up, because there'll be nothing worse than some wonky rear lights. And then I can go about sort of tacking the rest of it and work it as I go. I think that is going to be the plan of attack. Okay, so I got these lights fitted on both sides. This side seems to be fine. This side, you can see here, is going to need some work. There's quite a big gap. You should be able to see it. In this side, nothing touches, and I can't fully bolt up this. Only one of the 10 mils, and it's sat right back. Yeah, it's just not a good fit, so that's going to need adjustment. If I shut the boot down and hold it about level, not sure how far I can go back on the camera, but if I put the boot level with the arch, you can see that it's nice all the way along. So from that side of it, it's all good. Just need that little bit up there to sort out, but I might just put a tack in this side just to hold it all level while I muck around with that side. Don't want this side moving. So this potentially was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Essentially, I got some grips on it and sort of twisted it and lifted it a little bit. Let's put it in place. I'm just going to see if the light now fits. But it's relatively easy, straightforward. So maybe I was putting these panels down a bit too much. Although the back brace here still needs to be sorted. But let me get this light fitted and just make sure that fits. Then we can move on to that brace. So the short answer is no, it didn't fit, but it was a very small amount of hitting on with the hammer, and there's a dolly in there that I used just to tap it round, and it fits now. And yeah, it's all good. So all the lights are fitting good down the sides and everything else. So I'm really happy with the lights and their fitment. Just got it tacked in at the top just to hold it in place. So this strengthening bar is the next bit to go in. As you can see, this whole piece here. Now originally it was like shifted this way. So not only would the boot striker hit about here, so they couldn't close the boot, but there's also a hole in the lock. You can see it through there. Now that wasn't lined up, so when you look through it, I'm exaggerating with the camera angle, it looked like that. Instead of looking at it straight on and being a good hole. And that is one of the holes that you use there to bolt all of the boot fixing in. So it was obviously no good. I can't just clip it on with a mole grip to make sure it's all right, because obviously I need to shut the boot and it will just get in the way. So I'm just going to buzz a couple of small tacks, probably one in the middle, two either end, and then just see if the boot works. And then I can just tack this back panel back where it used to be, and again up here to give it strength back into the middle and just make sure that works. So I'm going to buzz a couple of tacks on and we'll see if it shuts. So that lines up really well. It's a bit difficult to film, but it is almost bang on the middle of the boot panel. So I'm really happy with that. I don't think it needs any more adjustment. I think as well, as a side note, that copper welding primer definitely for me is much easier to get. It's basically to get the spark going, basically, or get the weld initiated. That's the problem I was having. It doesn't seem to be an issue with the copper, and where I had some of the old primer left over, that became an issue again. So I'm convinced that the copper for me is the way to go, at least. So next thing for me to do is get all of this panel welded in. I'll take the lights out, plug weld across the top, needs a little bit of tap in and fettling, but I'll do that as I weld it. The structure is there, and then I can look at doing the boot floor as well and just get the whole lot welded up, I think. And as you can see, I've got a back panel. Now, I have lost some of the footage, but I have welded on all the spot welds in the boot floor and down the sides, and I've cleaned them up. They're not perfect. They welded okay, a little bit hit or miss, but good enough. And I've ground them back, and I'm just filling, there's a few pinholes in there, which I kind of expecting, but I've run out of gas at the moment, so I'm gonna have to wait before I can finish and finalise the two outer corners completely. So for the meantime, I'm going to move on to this toe and eye cover or little recess that I made a template for earlier on. So let's get cutting some metal and we'll see how close to this I can make it. So that went reasonably well. Now I used a CO2 gas rather than an argon mix. And it's actually welded up pretty well. So what I think I'm probably going to do is completely weld this up, this piece here. It fits in nicely. And that'll all be prepped and ready to go, essentially. So that is all the piece welded, cleaned up. Got some holes in there for some spot welds and some weld through primer on there. It's ready to put into the car. I haven't primed the outside because I'll etch prime that once it gets welded in. But yeah, ready to go. Now it's going to be a bit tricky for me to actually film welding it in. So I'm just going to get it welded, then I'll show you the end result. Well, it's in and it looks horrendous. I'm not really happy with that. Now I did try to weld it with the gas that I had, which was just a CO2 gas, and it hasn't gone well. So I'm going to have to wait until I get some proper argon mix before I continue and weld up the rest of it. However, it is good in terms of fixing, it's structurally sound, just needs that tidying up. I'll do that at a later point in time when it comes to doing the whole bodywork, prepping for paint, that side of it. So I am now eager to get this thing on a rotisserie so I can get the thing upside down and work on the underneath. That is what I'm itching to do. So that will be the next job for the next video. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen and want to see my progress, subscribe to the channel, give it a like if you like this one. And yeah, let me know what you think. And I will see you next time, and hopefully the car will be upside down. See you next time.